Who is General Pervez Musharraf? Why did he become president of Pakistan? And how did he get where he is today? Well, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Musharraf's rise to power, including his role in the Kargil War. So make sure to watch until the end to find out what happened to him. But before we start, make sure to subscribe for more videos about South Asia. So, to understand who Musharraf was and why he became president of Pakistan, we need to go back to the Kargil War. But if you don't know what that is, don't worry, we've got you covered. The Kargil War was a military conflict between India and Pakistan that took place in the Kargil district of the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. The war started in May 1999, when Pakistani soldiers crossed the line of control and entered Indian territory. At the time, India and Pakistan had been in a decades-long conflict over Kashmir, and both countries claimed the entire region as their own. Tensions had been high for years, and both sides had been engaging in small skirmishes along the border. However, the situation escalated quickly, and soon thousands of Pakistani soldiers were engaged in heavy fighting with Indian forces. Pakistan's plan was to capture the high ground around the town of Kargil, and then use it to launch an attack into Kashmir. However, the Indian military was able to hold them off and eventually forced them to retreat. The war ended in July, with Pakistan withdrawing its soldiers from the area. The war was a significant event in the history of the two countries, and it had a major impact on the relationship between them. It also had a profound effect on the life of one man, Pervez Musharraf. Pervez Musharraf was the chief of staff of the Pakistan Army at the time, and he played a key role in planning and executing the military operation. He was seen as a national hero in Pakistan, and his star was on the rise. But behind the scenes, Musharraf was growing increasingly disillusioned with the government. He felt that they had not given the army the resources it needed to win the war, and he believed that they were not committed to the cause. He also began to criticize the government's handling of the conflict, and he called for a more aggressive approach. This put him at odds with the civilian leadership, and it was clear that he was not going to be able to work with them anymore. In October 1999, Musharraf made a decision to take matters into his own hands. He led a group of loyalist soldiers in a coup and took control of the government. He then went on to become president of Pakistan, and he remained in power until 2008. During his time in office, he faced numerous challenges, both from within Pakistan and from abroad. But he was able to stay in power for nearly a decade. This was due to a combination of factors, including his close relationship with the military, his ability to play the different sides against each other, and his willingness to use force to maintain control. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get back to the video. Despite his background as a military man, Musharraf was seen as a potential reformer by some in Pakistan. They hoped that he would be able to tackle some of the country's most pressing problems, such as its failing economy and its deep-rooted corruption. However, Musharraf's presidency soon turned out to be very different from what they had expected. One of Musharraf's first acts as president was to crack down on political opponents and civil society activists. He also imposed a state of emergency and suspended the constitution. This showed that he was not interested in sharing power with civilians, and that he was willing to use force to maintain control. In addition, Musharraf's close ties to the military meant that the army had an even greater influence over Pakistani politics than before. This led to widespread protests and violence across the country, as people took to the streets to demand the restoration of democracy. Another factor that contributed to Musharraf's fall from grace was his handling of the war in Afghanistan. After the US-led invasion in 2001, Musharraf allowed American troops to use Pakistani air bases to launch attacks against the Taliban. This made him unpopular with many in Pakistan, who saw it as a betrayal of the Muslim world. In addition, the war in Afghanistan spilled over into Pakistan, with cross-border attacks and the influx of Afghan refugees putting a strain on the country's resources. Despite these challenges, Musharraf was able to stay in power for several years. He was seen as a key ally in the war on terror, and the US provided him with billions of dollars in aid. However, his luck eventually ran out in 2007. That year, he was implicated in a number of corruption scandals, and there was growing opposition to his rule. In response, he declared another state of emergency and cracked down on his opponents. But this proved to be a fatal mistake. The state of emergency was widely condemned by the international community, and it led to the withdrawal of foreign aid. This caused the Pakistani economy to collapse, and the people became increasingly desperate. As the situation spiraled out of control, Musharraf's own supporters began to turn against him. In August 2008, he was forced to resign and go into exile in London. Since then, Musharraf has lived a very low-profile life in London. He has given very few interviews, and he has kept a low profile on social media. However, despite his absence from the public eye, Musharraf remains a controversial figure in Pakistan. Some people still view him as a national hero who saved the country from the brink of economic collapse. Others see him as a dictator who betrayed the country and its people. In recent years, there have been calls for Musharraf to be returned to Pakistan to face trial for his crimes. However, the Pakistani government has been reluctant to do this, as they are afraid that it could cause instability in the country. Only time will tell what the future holds for Musharraf and whether or not he will ever return to Pakistan. As we can see, Musharraf is a highly polarizing figure in Pakistan. There are those who view him as a hero and those who see him as a villain. It really depends on which side of the political spectrum you stand on. What's your opinion on Musharraf? You see him as a hero or a villain? Let us know in the comments below. And we want to talk a little bit about Musharraf's legacy. What did he achieve during his time in power, and what was his overall impact on Pakistan? Well, Musharraf's presidency was marked by a number of significant events. One of the most important was his decision to join the US-led war on terror after the September 11th attacks. This led to a significant increase in US aid to Pakistan and helped to stabilize the economy. Musharraf also presided over a period of economic growth, although this was largely due to factors outside of his control, such as the global economic boom in the early 2000s. Nevertheless, he did implement a number of neoliberal economic policies that helped to open up the Pakistani economy to foreign investment. Another important event during Musharraf's presidency was the 2004 tsunami that hit the coast of Pakistan, killing over 140,000 people and causing billions of dollars in damage. The government was widely praised for its response to the disaster, which helped to improve Musharraf's international reputation. However, despite these achievements, Musharraf's legacy is a controversial one. His critics argue that he was a dictator who used the war on terror as a cover to crack down on civil liberties and silence his opponents. They also point to his close ties to the military as evidence of his authoritarianism. Supporters, on the other hand, argue that Musharraf was a strong leader who brought stability to Pakistan at a time of chaos, and that he should be remembered for his economic achievements and his response to the tsunami. So what do you think? How should Musharraf be remembered? We want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. As we wrap up this video, we want to thank you for watching and ask you to support us by liking and subscribing. Your support helps us to continue producing quality videos about South Asia, and we appreciate your generosity. Thank you again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.